Welcome to another edition of Hey Bobby with Senior VP of our Cleveland Guardians, Bob DiBiasio. And Bobby, a couple of things I wanted to bring up this week. The All-Star game is quickly approaching, and I had a chance the last couple of weeks, a couple of times to see him live, and I love watching José Ramírez play baseball. The way he runs. There was a play at first base Saturday when I was up at the game. He was clearly going to be out. He hustled down the play base and almost beat the doggone thing out on Saturday afternoon. He plays defense, he steals bases, he has clutch hitting, he's power. He's just really something else. And you've talked about it. If he stays healthy, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. This guy is really something special for this organization now. He has been in the future, and I think he's a future Hall of Famer. He's something else.
Well, he sure is. Do we have 2 hours to talk Jose Ramirez, Ray? We certainly can. Um, he's a guy that when it's all said and done could be a top maybe 10, 12 offensive categories in the history of our franchise. So the Nap Lajoie Speakers, the Lou Boudreaux, the Earl Arels, the Hal Troskys, the Jim Tomeys, and all of the guys he's going to bypass. I think maybe the only one that he may not clear the hurdle is Kenny Lofton's stolen base mark. Kenny was just, 5-time American League stolen base champ in a row. So I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. But in every other category, you started this with we're coming up on the All-Star game. Right now, Jose has been to 6 All-Star games. So the guys in our franchise history who have been to 6 All-Star games, Sam McDowell, Sandy Alomar, and Earl Averill, and Jose Ramirez. Now he's going to go, and hopefully, you have to go to MLB.com or CleGuardians.com and vote for Jose. It's he against Alex Bregman of the Boston Red Sox, the 2 finalists, to see who starts. And obviously, Jose should start. So people need to do that to ensure that we have Jose as a starter in his 7th All-Star appearance. And so therefore, in number 7, he's going to join an elite group of Cleveland players: Lou Boudreaux, Larry Doby, Kenny Keltner, and Bob Lemon as the only 7-time All-Stars. And you would have to think that Jose's going to be an All-Star a couple more times. And therefore, Bob Feller is an 8-time All-Star, the only one. And the most All-Star appearances in franchise history is Bob Feller.
Wow.
8. There's a chance Jose could be 9 or 10 and be at the top of that incredible list of our franchise players. So where to begin? You could consider him the best switch hitter in franchise history. I don't know. Where do you want to begin, Ray, in talking about
I'd like to talk about the man.
Jose Ramirez?
I would like to talk about Jose Ramirez, the man, because you've told me some stories originally how the Guardians scouted him, signed him, and then a couple of years ago when he sat down and said, I've got a lot of money. This organization has been good to me. I want to be here. I think that's important to the player. We all know the stats, but really the man and the leader that we have in that dugout.
He joined this organization at our Dominican Academy when he was 16 years old, and I believe it was $50,000, which seemed like a gazillion to him at the time and his family, obviously. But he's been with this organization since he was 16 years old. So he has obviously a tremendous amount of loyalty and emotion when it comes to wearing that Cleveland uniform. The thing I love about Hosey is he has what Omar had and Carlos and the special guys who, when they walk through that clubhouse and they get to put that uniform on, they turn into somebody else. They're just full of joy. Some players have to play with an anger to get to where they want to be, an intensity that gets going in them to compete. Other guys do it out of pure passion and joy. And I look at Jose and it reminds me of Omar. I mean, they bounce into the clubhouse, and next thing you know, man, they are in the place that they are in nirvana. This is their heaven, is putting that baseball uniform on. I'll never forget, Hammy and I and a couple others were in Tito's office the first spring training, 2013. And Hosey comes walking down the hallway, and he's doing his walk. And Tito's like, "Who's that guy? What's his strut all about?" And we're all like, "You're gonna love this dude. Before your time is done here, you're gonna absolutely think he's one of the best you've ever dealt with." And it turned into that. Because if you remember, we put Hosey at shortstop before Francisco Lindor was ready to be in the big leagues, and it didn't work. And we had to send him to AAA.
Yeah.
Mickey Mantle was sent to AAA. I mean, people are sent down to the minor leagues after scuffling a little bit in the big leagues just to catch their breath and understand what they just experienced and work on things and get back and then figure out how do they stay. And that was just a funny moment because obviously from 2013 on, Hosey's been the star, one of the stars of this team. And when he does get to the top of the list in all of those categories, obviously that means a retired uniform number. It means a statue outside our ballpark or probably inside next to Jim Thome, because I don't know if we have room outside the way our ballpark is configured in the middle of major streets in downtown Cleveland. And then you're talking Cooperstown, of course.
When you think of Jose, you mentioned he went down to the minors. If I remember right, we brought him back up at the end of the season, and he was playing left field.
Yeah.
If I remember right, just to get him some at bats in the majors. Is that correct, Bobby?
Yeah. It was one of those, is he a second baseman? We're not so sure he'd do shortstop. Let's see, we need help, in left field. Let's put him at third base, and third base ended up obviously being the place that I know Manny Machado's a pretty darn good third baseman. Alex Bregman had been really good and still is a good, solid player. He's injured right now. I think he's still on the injured list, but man, you talk about how many times in the MVP voting. Um, he's right there with Mookie Betts and Aaron Judge and Freddie Freeman and Trout with top four MVP finishes over the last 8-9 years. The people in baseball know that he's one of the best.
Senior VP with us, Bob DiBiasio with Hey Bobby. I want to transition to my other topic this week, and it was this week, 1931, I believe, that Cleveland Municipal Stadium opened up its doors. Maybe it was 33, but it was the 30s. But it replaced League Park, and for a while they played in both, the Indians. But League Park has always been real important to Cleveland baseball, and it's specifically with the Dolan family, Bobby, and the Indians, now Guardians. Have you guys invested time, dollars, and investment into refurbishing League Park? And we don't necessarily need to go back in time, but talk about how you guys have looked at League Park to keep its heritage and to keep everything going. I like it. He's putting his League Park hat on to make sure that League Park stays with all of us in the region.
No question. I think it was the first 6 months of my tenure with the organization back in 1979. I went to a landmark commission meeting, historic landmark commission meeting about saving League Park, making sure it wasn't demolished and turned into a couple housing developments or, excuse me on that. um, and the effort was made that we didn't have the kind of wherewithal to help with brick and mortar to try to recreate the office building totally and build a ballpark at that time. But we committed to making sure there was youth baseball being played in the Huff neighborhood at League Park. League Park is the only ballpark in America that baseball was played at in the 1800s and through the 1940s that's still standing.
Mm.
No Sportsman's Park, no Crosley Field, no polo grounds, and they're all gone. League Park's the only one still standing. And a number of years ago, there was an effort with us, the federal government, the city of Cleveland, Cuyahoga County, to get field turf put in and bleachers and stands put in and a scoreboard. And we did lighting just a couple years ago, the Guardians did, and to get a lot of activity going baseball wise. And then the Baseball Heritage Museum is inside the office building, the ticket office in the office building that keeps League Park alive with its history. It opened in 1891. The Cleveland Spiders, 9,000 people were there to see the Cincy Redlegs and the Spiders play. 9,000 was a sellout. It then ballooned to somewhere, I don't know, 20,000 at one point attendance capacity, and then to 22, 23. And then Bill Veeck became the owner of the Cleveland Indians, played during the week at League Park, and then the weekends, doubleheader on Sunday, they would get 80,000 people. People would take the train from Buffalo and all over the place to come to see a doubleheader at Cleveland Stadium back in those days.
Yeah.
And then after the 46 season, Bill Veeck moved the ball club out of League Park forever and into Cleveland Stadium. Off the top of your head, what do you know of great moments that happened at League Park? Anything come to mind for you?
Wasn't the DiMaggio hit streak? Did it stop at League Park, Bobby? There's some story with DiMaggio's hitting streak there. That's the one thing that I
Yes.
partially obviously remember.
Yes, yes, yes. No, you're partially right. One of the most exciting aspects, Babe Ruth hit his 500th home run at League Park. Joe DiMaggio extended his hitting streak to 56 straight at League Park. Then the next day they played at Cleveland Stadium, and Kenny Keltner, great third baseman for the Indians, made a couple incredible plays, and his hitting streak snapped. So the ironic aspect is it extended at League Park, was snapped at Cleveland Municipal Stadium. Also in the 1920 World Series, it was at League Park that Bill Wambsgans, also known as Bill Wamby, turned the unassisted triple play. The only, first and only, I think, unassisted triple play. Certainly the first. I'm pretty sure it's still the only unassisted triple play in World Series history. And also, in that game, Elmer Smith hit a grand slam, which was the first grand slam in the history of the World Series in 1920. And that all was in game 5 of the 1920 World Series. So some remarkable things happened. But guys would take the trolley in their uniform with their spikes and over their shoulder and before the locker rooms were good enough and ride to the ballpark with the fans. And across the street, there was a bar. And after wins, guys would go in there and people would buy them their beers before they went home. And I just could only imagine what those days were like in the 1910s and
Yeah.
1920s with that kind of environment and atmosphere for the players and the fans.
Well, you forgot the biggest story, and that's Rocco Horner was 1 for 3 in League Park
I
with an
like it.
RBI double. I
Of
bring that
course
up
he
though.
was.
I bring that up because what you guys did is you opened up that ballpark through your work where there's a lot of travel tournaments and the
Yes.
kids are playing youth baseball there. And my son was lucky enough to play on a Saturday afternoon. This is going back, I think, about 10 years ago when he had a chance to play at the ballpark in one of his tournament games. And I remember walking in there and the history just echoes around that place as you walk in there. But I remember the kids in the ball club just saying, wow, this is League Park. We're playing here. And that's
Yeah.
through efforts with you guys, with the Guardians.
Yeah, preserving our history obviously is so vital to who we are as, what the oldest sports franchise in our city's history. We're professional baseball began in 1869 in Northeast Ohio, and we're one of the oldest institutions that our city has. And so we cherish the thought of making sure we preserve that history. And the Baseball Heritage Museum at League Park does a remarkable job. Ricardo Rodriguez, Bob Zimmer, the owner. Jay Murphy is in charge of former CSU head baseball coach, is head of all the baseball operations. They have a travel team that's based out of League Park, the Cleveland Buckeyes, and really a lot of fun. So people, if you travel up to a ball game at Progressive Field, there's always a fun thing you could do is to stop over on your way and take a peek. Just park along the street on Lexington Avenue, 66th and Lexington Avenue, and take a peek, walk in the Baseball Heritage Museum. Maybe you sneak over to Gus Galucci's and get, a good sandwich, piece of pizza or something, and then head to
That sounds
Progressive
really good.
Field. It'd be a heck of a day for anybody.
Senior VP Bob DiBiasio. We call it Hey Bobby. We talk baseball each and every week. Bobby, is always, my friend, thanks for making time. We'll do it again next week.
Somehow pizza gets in there every week. It's always fun, Ray. Take care, buddy. Go Guardians.